rules. Nothing has changed. Maybe we should introduce something new just to spice things up a little bit. But still, we would like to have everybody with their microphones off, not to create too much noise in the background. And if you have any questions throughout any comments also throughout the presentations, just put them in the chat, and then at the end of each presentation there will be a little bit of time for the presenter to go through them. And then, of course, at the end of the session, we are going to have another bigger round of questions and answers. And these are the topics for today. I'm going to probably just put them into the chat in a moment as well. So Vita is going to tell us about all games reimagined. Svetlana has the title of the day, To the Lighthouse, and she's going to tell you herself what it's going to be about. Mine should be called a project, but it would probably be too much of a name for what I'm going to show you. This will be the activities for juniors. Keely, a little bit later, is going to tell us how to recycle and use the real life in the online classroom as well, to keep the connection between these two. John is going to be with us with some games for teens, and then I'm going to finish with a session on songs for very young learners, I guess, but also for young learners. And then we're going to have the questions and answers. We are recording again, so the recording will be available at one point when we are ready with it. And Yes, Vita, please.
So yes, dear speakers, if you don't want to be on YouTube, email me or PM me. Because if you don't, well, you'll be on automatically.
Okay.
Oh, we have said, like, don't put.
No, it's all right. Okay, lovely. So shall we start? Vita, you're the first one. Let's go with the games. Take your pencils, take your paper, and let's listen.
Okay, hello everybody, and basically this idea came to me when I was presenting for the 1st of September, and I was giving a workshop on Miro and how to register and how to use, and then I showed them bits and pieces of my boards, and people were really interested in games, and can we have them? Can you please share? So I decided to put together a board of games and give everybody a link so that they can use them in their lessons. And this is it. This is basically my pet project, which keeps my mind occupied and takes the edge off things. Have a look. There is nothing new, and the games, like, we've played these games multiple times in our offline classes, and I'm just trying to show you how things can be done in an online class. Well, obviously things can be done in many ways, but perhaps some ideas might be useful. So here's the board, and it's organized in the following way. So here I have some lexical games, some grammar games, mountains. My kids love mountains. I don't know why, because they're very easy to create, and well, less work for me anyhow. Then memory games and playway games. This is not the final collection, it's not finalized. I will be adding more, I will be collecting more, so you can check it from time to time. Let's dive in. We're gonna start with bingo. We all know bingo. We have a grid, kids put there either flashcards or words, and then we play. At the moment we are offline, so we are online. That means I cannot help them writing, explaining, whatever they need. So we can do it online. We can use the grid function in Miro, and we can, for example, either write words here, for instance, let's zoom in, cat, and then we can make it bigger. Or we can use the icon finder tool, and we can drag an icon there, and we can also resize it to fit the grid. These grids can be prepared in advance before the lesson, or you can make them in the lesson and ask your kids what they want depending on the size of your class. If the class is very big, you can obviously divide kids into teams. Well, another interesting thing is how are you going to randomize the words? Well, for this we can use a wheel provided by WorldWall. I've just discovered this resource and it's fantastic because it allows you to put pictures on your wheels. Great for playways. And this is what we got. For example, it took me like 30 seconds to make, and then we spin it like that. And so here's the picture, and it's a guinea pig. And all the kids need to do is to cross guinea pig on their grid, or you can do it for them. But if you're working with Zoom, for instance, they all have the drawing option, the drawing panel, and then can use it to play. Then this tool, the WorldWall, can also be the spinning wheel, can also be used for Go Fish game, which we love in the classroom when working on stories, for example. Somebody starts the stories, then they have a box with words or something. You say go fish, they dive in, take out another word or a sentence or a grammar construction, whatever, and they have to use it in their stories. Well, we can say goldfish and then spin the wheel. Another modification. Then here I have 9 lives, which basically is a hangman only with cats. So we have a word here. For example, it's a maze. So this is extra. They say M, you say yes, and you type it here. It's M. Then they say I, you say sorry, no. The cat runs away, and you use the pencil tool to cross out I. This is how you play it. Easy. Again, can be prepared in advance, and usually kids learn how to play it very quickly, even online, either using Miro tools or Zoom tools, and you can give them the control. Then the long sentence. The idea is that one kid starts a sentence like, in my bedroom there is a bed, and then they continue it one after another. In my bedroom there is a bed and a table. Well, Miro allows you to visualize everything by using pictures and icons. And then you can also use story cubes and second camera. For instance, okay, shall I demonstrate? Okay, I will. So my second camera, hopefully it's on. So yes, here we go. I have my story cubes. They choose the story cube which they want. For example, let's take animals. We spin it. I have a horse, and we start a whole new sentence about horses. Like, I like horses. I like horses because they're beautiful. I like horses because they're beautiful and smart. And I've tried it with my bilingual kid. She's almost 7. She's very good, and we've come up with amazing long sentences, like several compound sentences together, which was great for her speech development. So, and again, it's kind of bringing offline into the online. So that's why I like using it this way as well. Okay, so let's go back to the screen. Then another modification. This is a story which I created with my reluctant pre-A1 student. It's like a chant. And it's very simple. Like, the cat is sitting on the floor, the frog is sleeping on the bed, the cat jumps on the bed, the frog jumps off the bed. Now the cat is on the bed and the frog is under the bed. We had a chant like that in her book. And then I decided to give her a little push and to motivate her to go a little bit further. So I used the icon finder tool to find these tools, because like we found this frog, she liked it, she selected it. That means she was extra motivated to create a story. Then they have all these cats, like jumping cat, sitting cat, sleeping cat, and I was actually surprised because my little reluctant pre-A1 student basically came up with the whole chant all by herself. I just corrected some things, some bits and pieces, but all in all, the level of production was incredible. So it can be done like that as well. Then the next one is spell it. It's a kind of interesting game. You start spelling the word and you say like C, A, and when they think that they know the word, they tell you, okay, the word is this, like cat, for example. And or you can start spelling here. Basically, no, the idea was to start spelling here. And here I have words hidden. Well, it's not a cat, but it's a pear. And if they guess it correctly, they take the sticker to their collection, to their motivation board. So have a pear, an apple, and a doll hidden. Another game that we can play is a good old Pictionary. I mean, Zoom perfect. For instance, this commenting section, yes, we can draw a simple cat. They can guess that it's a cat. I'm like drawing with my mouse, so if I can do it, then you can do it as well. And the kids can do it. Yeah, here's the cat. Okay. Or we can make it a little bit more fancy and use Tangram tool to play with. Again, this Tangram was done using the shape tool in Miro, and you can borrow it and use it in your class. You can resize the shapes if you want. You can move them around, and if you give your kids the access to your board, they will be able to do it. Or you can also assign the control over Zoom to one of the kids, if they're working on the same device as you do. Otherwise, things might get complicated. Okay, another idea is like group the words. So you can either put the words here into the post-it notes, or you can use pictures, and the kids group them together and then explain why. For instance, like we can group the cube and the joystick together because they're black and white, or we can group these two together because they're animals. We can group the plane and the robot together because, well, they're pieces of equipment, they're gadgets, yep, whatever. So as well, Anka talked about this 2 weeks ago, developing children's cognitive abilities, and this is one of the games can be used with lower levels, with higher levels. I mean, the explanations will differ, of course, and you will demand different amount of language. But like I even played with this game with my playways, and they like it. Then another game that you can play is synonyms. It's adapted from the book called Language Arts Grade 2 by Carlson DeLoza Publishing. Basically what I did is I took a picture of these beautiful Italian houses, and I put different families. So each family has its own flat, its own window. So we have a thin family, look family, noisy family, fairy tale words, etc. And here I have all these children who are playing, but now they have to go home. And the task is to get the kids home, basically. So for instance, narrow goes into thin, and you can use the page up, page down buttons to make things disappear. Scrawny as well, thin, page up. So if you press page up, it will be on top of everything. Page down, it will disappear behind something else. So glance is look. Again, here I kind of have advanced words because the game was developed for this bilingual kid who is ready for them, who is ready to learn peek and stare and scrawny, etc., and like magnificent, whatever. But words can be different, words can be replaced. I will play it from time to time. Then there's a similar idea, morphology for kids. Here I have prefixes undis, re, and the task is to send the words into the right house. So for example, I agree, like you send to disagree, obviously, etc. easily done. I'm not sure if somebody will be talking about that. I'm sorry. I stole this idea from my BKC colleagues. Thank you very much for that, for sharing. Svetlana shared it with me, and I think John shared with Svetlana. So basically, it's called a word diamond, and you start with one word at the top of the diamond, like you give the topic, interview, and then your students have to give you the associations with this word. For example, this is already played, obviously. The topic was interview. My teenagers came up with job application, interview. Then we went further. Job application is connected with career and impression, and interview is connected with impression and journalist. So job application and interview together make an impression. And then we go down, leader is connected to career and impression, kids connected with journalist and impression. I don't know why, I don't remember, to be honest, but it's interesting. And then leader and kids somehow became a gang. Well, after that, I sent them into breakout rooms, and they had to make a story. So the task was here: use all the words, at least 4 tenses. They have B2 plus, they can do it. At least 2 conditional sentences and 2 participle clauses. And here I gave them some examples because they forgot what participle clauses were. But anyway, it worked. They came up with some silly stories. We had a good laugh about it and moved on. Yeah. But my goal was achieved. Then moving back to sort of grammar words. Well, the diamond is a good link because it's vocabulary / grammar. So you know how, like, if you remember, we play this game a lot, especially with children and younger teens. Like, if you like bananas, swap your seat. If you like coffee, swap your seat, something like that. If you've done this, swap your seat. Obviously, we can't swap our seats here because I'm alone in my room and they're alone in their room. So the modification is, if you have been on the farm, jump. If you've had your breakfast today, sing la la la. If you have seen Frozen, do a tug jump. If you've eaten a shark, run in place. So basically, I've replaced swap your seat with something else. They have all these ideas, and they, when they become familiar with the game and comfortable with it, they replace my ideas with their own ideas, and I'm happy with that. Here's another game which you can do. Again, it's like a memory game, or it's a hidden object game. So we did an Elmer's, one of the Elmer stories together with them, and I needed to practice didn't run. So did past simple negative, because the problem was didn't went, for example. It happens a lot with kids who are acquiring their English as their L1 or L2, not as foreign language, because they go through the same stages of development. So we played this game. It's called Bot, but he didn't. So the kid chooses color. We open it, and then here they have a sentence: Elmer talked to Mommy Lion. And the kid has to say, but he didn't talk to Mommy Lion, he talked to Daddy Lion. And if they get it right, they get a reward. They get a sticker, for instance. Again, like it usually takes a long time, so this game was played for 3 lessons, for instance. So basically we had 3 boxes opened, and then we opened more, and then we opened some more, and things can be easily replaced. Elmer lived in, let's say, Italy, so you can modify things easily. Then another game which I like, also hidden object and a grid, which I played with my preparatory group, is this. So there are connecting words hidden, and they choose different stickers. There were more stickers. It's just we've been playing it for quite some time. So like, for example, I want a rabbit. They open a rabbit, they have and. Oh, lucky them, right? And so they give me a sentence with and. If the sentence is good, they get the rabbit. If not, well, somebody else gets the rabbit, somebody who can help. And here we have when, so, as, like, because, etc. Again, imagine like asking them, okay, Diana, now give me a sentence with when. Let's practice. Well, Diana will do this. No, I don't know. Ask somebody else. When you do it this way, they become motivated. Here's another modification of 9 lives, irregular verbs. They give you, it actually doesn't matter, like what you have, you can either hide them or you can start with simply blank boxes. This is what I usually do. And they say, for example, oh, I want this box. And you look at the book and you put something like, okay, get. So you choose the verbs. You don't even, if you have the boxes ready, you don't even have to prepare or type anything in advance. You can just look at the list of the verbs at the end of their book and like, go with it, go with the flow. But again, it's an interesting and easy way, very straightforward way to practice the irregular verbs with low levels, but because they get it, again, they get a sticker at the end. Everybody gets a sticker and they love their stickers. They're motivated to play and motivated to remember. And last week we played this game and I actually was surprised because it went really well. Didn't expect that. So I divided my kids into 2 teams. Everybody got 7 lives because we have guns hidden here and bombs. And if you hit the bomb, you die. Well, I take the life away. If you get a gun, then you can take somebody's life away. And I hate it. Like, to be honest, I hate this game because of it, but my kids like it and we played this game offline. So I'm like, okay, why not? But I gave everybody 7 lives, and that means that, well, my kids are very unlikely to lose all of them. And there are stickers hidden behind some of the tiles. And the task was to open a tile here, for example, running, they open and they have to do a grammar task. And then if they do it successfully, they open 1 tile here. I have words here. They all come from the book, and basically I'm killing 2 birds with the same stone because I'm revising the vocabulary here, even though it's on the very basic level of reading it again and seeing the written form of the word. But still, they say, I want rap. They don't say just, I want this. They read it, or I want festival. And then I open it and there is something hidden behind it. And again, I can ask them if I can be a very mean teacher, and I can say, okay, you want festival, give me a sentence with it, or give me something to go with the festival. What festival can we have? What festivals can we know? I can ask them a question. I can ask them to give me a question with this word. So I can change it, and I can make it either easier or more difficult, depending on my goals and depending on how much time I have. And again, like, we did the whole page of grammar in 1 lesson, and they wanted more. Yoo-hoo! Another very simple game which can be created in Miro is mountain games. So you just choose a beautiful mountain using the Google image search, and then you put post-it notes on top of it, and you have different characters who need to go over the mountains, and by doing different tasks. For instance, here the kid had a problem with words like spacious, CI combination. So I have here the whole lot of words for her to read. Here the kid has some problems with C sounds. Again, she can't distinguish them. She doesn't hear whether it's th or f, for instance. And 6, she has problems pronouncing the words with SI because she makes them soft, like 6, like, again. So, okay, here's another mountain to practice that. Well, here's an empty mountain, and what you can do with it, for instance, you can put a grammar task into each box. You can put a word scramble, a scrambled word into each box. You can do whatever you want. Like it's your imagination is the limit, basically. I've tried it with higher level kids, with lower level kids, and was pretty much successful. Just the important thing is not to overuse it, because if you play it again and again, over and over, then it will become boring. So what else do I have here? I have a memory, very simple. Like you can play it like this, just open and say. Or here, I did a song with my kids. Like I have a pet, it's a dog, and it says woof, 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 woof. Super simple songs. Then they open this, for example, oh, they have a line. And they need to give me these 3 sentences using the line as a prompt. Like I have a pet, it is a line, and it says rah 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 rah. I have some scaffolding here. I put the sentences here because I want them to be able to see them. But these kids can read, obviously. If they can't read, then you need to drill. But even if they can't read, but you put this, they will remember that I have a pet. Sentence I have a pet has 3 elements in it, and it will help them remember I have a pet. And then you can use a finger drill with them if they're, for instance, if they play with 1 or play with 2, for instance, to help them tie the words to something tangible, something physical. And here I have some games for playways as well. So for instance, cover it. Like I want a purple, the purple circle. You open it, they need to either, again, you can work here on the level of word or on the level of an utterance, sentence, simple, compound, whatever. Like they can say soup, they can say I like soup, they can say like I like my mom's soup because it's very good. So again, you set the task and you have the rules. And then you can, for instance, build a caterpillar. This is what we did. Like it wasn't planned, to be honest. This caterpillar wasn't planned. It just appeared suddenly. And then it became Joe. Here's another game which Anka talked about, like the odd one out. So I'm doing the free time unit with my play with 3 now, and I put these words here, and again with Miro it's easily done. And then they need to, okay, well, what's the odd one out here? Well, it's football, because you play football outside, but you feed the dog and you cook inside. So it can be done in different ways. And again, it's developing their cognitive abilities as well, cognitive skills. Here I have another memory game, but this time it's a proper memory game. So you open boxes and there are some things hidden behind. And here again, I'm trying to kill 2 birds with the same stone, because I've got here CVC words, pin, hat, kick, and I have numbers here. And I want them to revise these things, and I want them to start reading. That's why it's not just like, oh, I want the green square. No, like I want B or G, I want a bog. So they have to read. And here it's going to be, yes, it's our last game. Something which I did with my kid as a project, but can be done with playways, for instance, if you want them to have a break from their computer and to run around a little bit. For instance, we did the project called Plants in the Kitchen, and we were running around of apartment like 2 crazy maniacs looking for plant-based foods. Like, and we found all this around the flat. And you can do things like red, you can do colors, you can do shapes, you can do words that begin with the S sound. So anything can be done as a project like that. And then by using this super simple tools I can find and Google image search embedded in Miro, you can create words like that. And again, my kid enjoyed it, and my kid is a typical kid, so other kids might enjoy doing that too. That's it, basically. That's the board. I will share it with everybody. It will be made public, and I will be looking out for more games. We'll be working towards adding more games on the board. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Vita. There were questions. I don't know. I got kicked out, so some of the questions didn't save. So please have a look, Vita, on your chat if there are.
Okay, what exactly do you do with the tangram? So
Okay, you've got
question number one. Yes, I have all of them. Thank you.
Great.
What exactly do you do with the tangram? Well, it's a game, and you create different words. I mean, pictures using it. Like you can make a cat, you can make a rabbit. I mean, if you Google it, tangram, for instance, like I'll show you easily. So I'm going to use Miro, okay? So here, tangram, and you can see that you can make a cat, you can make a rabbit, you can make a goose, you can make a dancing person. Like we have this a real game, a real tangram at home, and there are 50 cards with different tasks, like 50 shapes, 50 little figurines that you can make, and there are many more. It can be an interesting way, like how to modify the simple Pictionary game, like put a different spin on it. Okay. So as for bingo, one more thing, students type or they create a bingo grid in their notebooks. Again, it depends, can be done both ways. They can either create it in their notebooks or I can type for them, or if they're old enough to have the access to the board, like I shared link to the board with some of my students. I mean, if they're 8 or 9, probably not, but 10, 11, 12, definitely. And I share it with my teenagers. They're old enough, they're mature enough to use it. So they can type. Okay. Lydia has asked, Mira has 3 boards only. How do you tackle that? And where do you save your masterpieces? Well, I have a paid account, so sorry. So the number of my boards is unlimited now. And again, I will post the link to this public board into the chat, and we will publicize it on Facebook as well. I don't mind sharing. I've created it for the community here. Michael is asking, explain the pad game again, please. Why is it the pear, apple, and something else under the pads? Well, okay. So here we go. Cancel, I don't want it. So the pad game here. So basically, these were the words which I came up with before the presentation when I was working. You can put whatever you want under the pads. And the idea was for me to start typing, for instance, okay, my word is P, E, and when you are ready to guess the word, you say stop and you try. Then if the answer is right, we continue A, and they're like, oh, okay, we know it's a pear. And the first person to guess the word gets the pear. It's their sticker now. It's like a mini reward for them. Okay. Yes, what language students produce? I mean, it depends on you. It depends on the way you set the task, and it can be a single word. You can be working on their, for instance, listening and writing skills if you want them to write the answer or something. Or I usually demand a little bit more, like either a question and answer, or I ask them a question and they have to answer. But again, it's up to you. A game is a tool, you can use it many different ways. Then do you play the games when students drag things? Do you give them the link, or do you give the link to you? No, I think I've already answered this question. I give them the link when they're ready. So let's say 10, 11, maybe 10, not sure. 12 definitely. 12 and up. And if they're a little bit younger, then I drag all the things for them. Okay, I think this is it. We don't have any questions left.
Thank you, Vita. Thank you. Okay, Svetlana, to the lighthouse then.
It was just a random name, to be honest. Like I've got.
But we liked it so much, so we decided to keep it. It's like good name is the first step to success.
Yes, and there is a connection between basically. In my house, like I've got the ceramic, I don't know, lighthouses in which you can put a candle from IKEA, and like basically I use it just to calm down in the end of the day. And my topic is speaking in the class, and I found it to be basically a lighthouse for me because I don't find it difficult. And why I'm happy with teaching it online, because you don't need to print out the pictures on the copy machine like black and white. So basically all the tools are right here on your computer. You can show a picture and get your students to discuss these pictures, of course, if they have sufficient language or enough language to do that. So here is my presentation. I have lots of things opened, and maybe I'll switch to my Miro-bot as well later. So speaking online. And what I came up with is when do we do it? Like when I do it in my class, I do it every lesson. I can do it in the beginning of the lesson as a warm-up or a kind of like hello circle. Yes, hello, how are you? And talking about, so this is how we all start our lesson. Yes, what did you do last weekend? And maybe some other questions, not so trivial. So, and also when there is enough language to make this process efficient, and in order not to get your students demotivated, because if you give them a topic which is basically difficult to talk about, students can get demotivated, especially teenagers and lower levels. So be careful here. Make sure that you teach the language before you ask them to use this language in speech. Topic, of course, should be interested. For example, I avoid sport topic because in my practice, most of my groups, they don't like talking about sports. I'm talking adults especially. And when, again, every lesson at different stages. Okay, even after controlled practice, I can even turn controlled practice exercise into a speaking process because the language is there. It's in front of the eyes. Why not having some tiny discussion? And I'll start with the most challenging for me, teenagers. Okay. So this was in the course book Gateway B2. And so this is the EFC format speaking practice. They're pre-FC, not FC prep yet. And so they had these two pictures. They already know this language. It was done several times beforehand. So this is how we start the lesson. So pictures are connected with different topics. So I copy pasted the language next to the pictures. I put them into pairs into the breakout rooms. It was on the Google document, which I shared with them. And in pairs, using the language, they were discussing those pictures. Okay. And this was basically a revision of what was done. And the topic of the language was clarifying and checking understanding. So I left it for the later, but so here I started to prepare them for the listening task where two people were talking about for and against using telephones in the class. I asked them to brainstorm ideas in pairs for and against, but here it looked like kind of TBL lesson, and I gave them again this language to have in front of their eyes. I didn't teach this language to them, I just had it. in front of the eyes, asked them to use this. Just a second, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry, I'm in my Dutch and that was my father's phone. Okay, that's his favorite melody. Okay, off the topic. So, okay, so the language was in front of their eyes and basically I gave them the chance to try to use it without knowing how to use it. As they are strong enough, of course, they have some kind of awareness of what it is. And they were brainstorming ideas using the language. How I did it for them to notice this language, because they may use one sentence and that's it. The aim was, I asked them in the Google document, cross out the phrases that they used when they were when they were doing the task. Yes, so brainstorming ideas for against and for using the phones in the class. It worked well. I asked them, okay, not more than 3 phrases, and already they were introduced to language. And later on, what we did is we had listening. And I told them, okay, now let's listen to people talking about this and compare your ideas and their ideas. Were they the same or different? Okay. After that, I showed them the scripts from the book. I copy pasted onto the Google document and onto the presentation. So on the Google document was to share and again ask them to work in pairs, and then at the classroom feedback we discussed, yes, so what basically was hidden under the squares. Why I did this? Because I wanted them to notice the language in the task. So it was for me another chance for them to memorize this language and use it in the following step in kind of free speaking practice. Yes. So well, it sounds quite sensible. I was interested in the word sensible, of course, yes, because they have problems with sensitive and sensible. And then I'm not sure. I mean, yes, they are part of daily life, and at the same time, when we were doing it, so I like 2 things at a time. I paid attention as well to the pronunciation here, particularly to this language that we were learning, like how to stress the phrases. So they were not just saying, I mean, yes, I asked them to say it with the beautiful intonation and all the possible, like all the correct word stresses. Okay, so this was done in past and as a feedback as a whole class together. And here we are. Sorry. And then we came back again to those 2 pictures that we started the lesson with. And I asked them to discuss these pictures again, but using the language that we've just studied. Okay. So this is one of the unpleasant way for me teaching speaking, because it's you need to sit down, think. It takes you some time, obviously, yes, of how to present it and motivate your students towards using the language which is prescribed in the book, and it is necessary for them to know for the exam. Yes, and at home, I asked them to do the task from the book, to think it over, make some notes. And the next lesson we started, so it was a recycle. So the next lesson we started with another speaking task using the language that we learned at the previous language. So what I want to say here, with all the levels, I do like proper speaking task, yes, with modal 2 times. So at least 2 lessons it takes me. Okay, 1 lesson maybe and the beginning of another lesson, because I always do recycling. Students tend to forget things. And maybe after a while, when I see that they forgot things, I can do it again in a week or maybe in a month. My elementary students, so maybe all of you, yes, you know, it's from English File Elementary. And so the language was taught, learned from the book, and here was the menu. Again, I did TBL with them, like instead of giving them this part, I asked them to look in the menu. We discussed what is different meals, like starters, main course, and desserts. And I told them, okay, now you together, you go to the restaurant. Can you please order food? Okay, student A, like you're a waiter, student B, you're a customer. Because they travel, they know some bits of language, and they use the language that they already know without any stress. And I didn't correct mistakes at this point, and otherwise I would demotivate them. And then after that, teaching happened with the help of this dialogue. So basically, here they wrote down, they noticed the language as if it like was in my previous getaway class, but in a different way. So they wrote it down instead of. And after that, we went to a real restaurant, but I downloaded menus from the Google. So I had groups. So they chose, I showed them the menus and they chose the one that they prefer. Maybe some men, they wanted to go to like this fast food restaurant, and ladies, they saw prawn salad and they decided that they would like to have a prawn salad during the pandemic. And I split them into groups again and set up the roles. Again, it was in my Google document. I just copy pasted onto my presentation. I shared the link with the Google document, and the language was there in front of their eyes, because I realized that it would be hard for them to prompt it at this time, let's say too little time, yes, for them to acquire that language as so fast. So yes, they went to the restaurant. I went into the breakout rooms. What I wanted them to do, when they were changing roles, so it was a role play, I asked them to find similarities, like what did you have, like similar desserts, what were they, and so on. So for me to have like a proper feedback, and again, to recycle the language that they used. Okay, food language in this case was. Okay, and this was the task. And then I had an error correction and I put some things for the next lesson. And to be honest, they went to the restaurant 3 times. They enjoyed this activity, but next lesson they went to a bar. So they're ordering some alcohol drinks, but they're adults. Yes, I could do this with them. So to keep them motivated. Now, my Superminds 3 and similar to Superminds 1, just the level of language is different. I always start the lesson with some kind of speaking activity and to revise, to prepare them. For in my case, I start the lesson with hello, how are you, circle, of course, homework check, and then, okay, now, Igor, please tell me, what did you do? I played, I did, I went, I watched, I ate. And here I wanted to revise a modal verb. I have to do homework. I asked him to tell me about his house rules for the period of his, let's say, holidays. What has he has to do at home, okay? And what I do, so like 1 lesson, 2 lessons, and every time I changed the words, and for example, for the 4th lesson, I decided to remove it. So he didn't see, he didn't have any support in front of his eyes, and there was just a question: how are you today? What did you do? And no support, and he started producing the language. Yes, the pattern was still in his head, so he memorized it because we were recycling several times. And he was just like, and here he started to talk about something different. Look, not like I played PlayStation. Oh, I played PlayStation with my friend and I won. And he described what game he played. And it was wow for me. So basically, I made him to memorize and to extend and to add something more. This is again my Superminds 3. So it was a revision. It was not the lesson of giving directions. We had this giving direction lessons like 2 weeks ago, and I decided to start like to revise. Yes. So I put the language in front of his eyes. I downloaded maps from the Google, and we had the role play. Okay. Where he was asking for the directions, and I was giving him directions, and then vice versa. So we changed the role plays again. So it took us a while to remember, but I was persistent, and finally he got it. Oops, sorry, he got it right. Okay. So again, 2 maps. He enjoyed it because it's a picture. He's a kid, and he likes to look into the details of those maps and pictures. Okay. My Superminds 1, kids. The same thing. I always start the lesson with not just hello, how are you? But yes, okay, kids, ask if you when I want them to work in pairs, I get my students, I train them to ask each other questions instead of me doing that for them. So they already know the procedure. And they start, okay, I start first, as an example, I demonstrate it, like, Vika, what's your favorite toy? And Vika talks about her favorite toy, and I say, okay, Vika, now can you please ask Gleb? And she asks, Gleb, what's your favorite animal? And then my favorite animal is. The same procedure here, so I don't know, several lessons in a row, they have this in front of their eyes, and then I just remove it and I start, okay, talk about your favorite things. And they start asking each other, yes, about their favorite things. And for me, it's a signal that I can start doing something new. So to challenge them more. So whenever they feel, when they have already acquired the language, not acquired, but how do you say, we accommodate, yes,
And
so
assimilate.
and yeah, when they assimilate, it for me it's a signal that I can start challenge them to challenge them again. So this is what I wanted to talk about today, about what I do in my classes. Tools are Google Documents to work in breakout rooms. Sometimes with my adults, I'm in the chat with my group. So I take the photograph onto my phone of the paper or the Google document. I send it to them to the WhatsApp chat. And I'm sorry, about teenagers. I also ask them, whenever I know that we're going to have a speaking lesson, which is serious for FC or any exam class, I asked them as homework to look at some materials. For example, just a second, I will show it to you. I'll share my screen. FC speaking task with pictures. Just a second. I hope I will. Should be somewhere on my. Give me a second. Yeah, so this is my mirror board that I wanted to show you how I work with my Superminds 1 as well, speaking activity with picture. So basically this is the, I'm sorry. So this is the Google document, and I sent it to them, asking them to think of the language that they can produce while discussing these pictures. And of course, they've got the lots of different versions of how to compare contrast when talking about 2 different pictures. That's it. I'll turn off the sound.
Okay, questions, Svetlana. Disappearing.
Okay, I'm here.
Have a look.
I'm sorry. That's fine. Thank you, Lydia. Yeah, I'm in the country house, so like, yes, I'm in a big family. So thank you so much. disappear. Thank you. TBL approach is great. Thank you very much, Irina. Thank you, Svetlana. Great activities. Okay, no questions. So I told you it's a light in the house. I assumed that there wouldn't be many questions because I'm pretty sure that all of you they don't have a lot of problems with teaching speaking online.
Could you just really quickly show us the mirror board once again for the SM1, Superminds 1, please?
Oh, yes, sure.
Thank you.
Yes, I can. I will show you. I have lots of mirror things with my students as well as Getaway. So this was the speaking activity, again, with the pattern to rely on. So in pink was my part. Yes, and are you at home? What are you doing? So I'm teaching Kostya, so my student is Kostya. Yes, and I was the model for him, like in TBL, but in weekend TBL. Yes, so I started with the model, I started with myself, and we discussed the language at the same time. I prompted him with pictures. Yes, parrot, Lithuania, my sister lives there. And then basically ask him to do the same thing and using the language that he knows. And I was typing the language that he produced with some error correction. And I also let him choose the icons. So for me to understand whether he understands what he's talking about. So when he was talking drinking water, I was like, listen, can you find please water in the icon? Yes. And like this is how I was checking the understanding of the language from him. Yes. So this was my speaking. And another interesting thing that I wanted to share, so I'll take you some more time because I like all my beautiful pictures on my mirror boards right now. Thank you, Vita, for hooking me on this thing, is with my Superminds free. Please work. Please work.
No, it's just opening,
yeah.
slowly.
So basically what I did, it will appear later, like we had superlatives and I like using authentic materials, like with, I don't know, menu from different books, from different websites. We read bloggers, we read news, we watch news with my students. And for example, again, about the language to pre-teach in order not to get your student demotivated. So I took this picture, it's like, records, yes, word Guinness. What's the name of the records? I forgot.
Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah, Guinness Book of Records. So I took 3 items, yes, and I showed him. So first of all, like we taught how to say 100, 1,000, 2,000, and then he found out that he wanted to tell me like where he was born. So we learned this, applied this language into some personalized context. And then here we go. So I showed him these pictures. First, he didn't see the text and he was like, wow, what's the tower? Okay, what tower it is? I think it's the tallest tower. And so then he read some facts about it. We did it. We looked at those books. We discussed it. I gave him like time to think of what can be in that book. Again, so it was some oral production speaking, in my opinion, for his age, which was good. And Mogilev train. And the next lesson, he saw these pictures, but without any prompts. That's it. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Do you have any questions? I hope it was useful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much for listening to me and listening to my dad's phone. With March Slavyanka.
March Slavyanka.
Yeah.
It's, this is the time of the month or of the year really to listen to those songs. All right.
Okay.
Right. I'm next. So here it is. Here's my thing. The title of it is really, I would call it a project, but it would be an overstatement. Basically, I decided to share with you 3 activities, projects that I've done, at least this year with my juniors group, but parts of it I was also doing with my teenagers and I'm doing with my teenagers. So you might find it useful, maybe. The first thing is they have three things. They have all these things in common. It's basically for groups, small groups, but bigger groups as well, because you can divide it. I've tried and tested them, so they work. And I'm trying to basically smuggle these activities into the course, like, you know, regardless of whether it actually matches what's in the book or not. And yeah, these are some of my favorite activities, but calling it a project definitely would be just a joke, really. The first one is something that I just a battle of the brains, but not really. We call it a debate. It's based on something that I saw in rewards, I think not rewards. It was New English File, pre-intermediate. There was this activity, which one is better? When you're doing the pair work activity, when you're doing, this is a good English day, as you can hear. When you're doing comparatives, and there are those little cards, and you should say whichever one is better out of the two presented. So I developed it into a big discussion theme, and I did it at camp. Every time I did camp, I tortured my teenagers as well. I did it with my teenagers as well here this year, and I did it with my juniors, with my Prepare 2 juniors, and they handled it well. So I thought, okay. So basically, the first step is to give them some language to express their opinions. Expressing opinion and disagreeing, basically. I mean, you can develop it. My teenage side was much more developed, obviously, because this is something that they already know. But I thought that these would be the basic ones. So this is what we started with. Not all of them were actually new, but I wanted them to practice, and I wanted them to have something to use. And then basically, I should have asked Vita and Svetlana whether they would help me present it, really, or not, but would you please? It's not going to hurt or anything. So Svetlana will be against Vita, and the first topic, well, you can choose, basically. Okay, you have some here: public cars or private cars or public transport, mobiles or computers. Which topic? Come on.
I don't mind.
Okay.
No, not mobiles and I had enough with my teenagers. Maybe public.
Okay. Let's go.
Oh, swimming in the sea and pool.
Okay, fantastic. Swimming in the sea and swimming in the pool. So we're going to have two people. We're going to do it like this. Vita, you express your opinion. Svetlana, you express your opinion. And like in a presidential debate, we go back to Vita and we go back to Svetlana. Okay? We are going to keep it to a minimum, so perhaps 2 minutes for the entire exchange. Vita, what do you think? Which one is better, swimming in the sea or swimming in the swimming pool?
The way I see it, swimming in the pool is better because it's more accessible and it's safer.
Okay, Svetlana, what do you think?
Well, I'm swimming in the pool.
Because it's fine. What do you
Because I had a bad experience with swimming in the sea and oceans with jellyfish and corals and fish biting my legs and jellyfish stinging my stomach. But on the other hand, I think that swimming in the sea it's more exciting during the storm rather than in the swimming pool when it's storming.
Okay, super. Back to you, Vita.
Yes, well, you're absolutely right that swimming in the sea is exciting, especially during the storm. However, it might be very dangerous, and statistically speaking, a lot of people die or get injured during storms because their swimming skills are non-existent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Svetlana, would you like to address this issue?
No, I can't because I agree with Vita. But but like you can always like hold someone who's bigger than you are in the sea to stay on the safe side.
Okay.
Or you can bring a pole with you. You can dig it into the just hold it and keep on jumping in waves.
Okay.
Have fun.
Thank you very much. So now at the end of each round, I ask my students, those who are listening, who are not participating in the debate, to choose the speaker who presented better arguments. And when we are in the classroom, everybody just gets a piece of paper and they write the name of this person, and I collect them just into a box, and we keep it there. Online, I was asking people to send me the, in the chat, the name of the student that they think presented better arguments. And then, of course, I'm counting it. I have those two groups that I mentioned that are only for students. So basically, it's an activity that kind of everybody has to have a chance to discuss things with everybody. So there were basically 3 rounds with those two groups of 4 students. So they would discuss everybody, and each student would be a judge twice, and they had to vote. So it was more or less even. When we did it at camp, there were basically groups of students. And once we had a big battle of, I think that each team, because it was like a few groups, one of those crazy days when we did activities in between lunch and the quiet hour. So basically there were 10 people in each group, and they were discussing with each other. And then the third one was always voting. Well, my students, my previous group of teenagers, they liked it so much that I think in one lesson we played 3 rounds. So everybody, like there were 3 cycles basically. So it lasted the entire lesson, bless them. But they loved producing the arguments, and so much language comes out of them. And there are different ways of spicing things up, because, for example, this time I played it, and especially with the juniors group, I just let them say what they think. And the idea was to generate as many arguments in favor of whichever opinion. But when I play it normally, I'm the mean one, and they have to defend one of the sides. And the fascinating thing happens is that they hated the first time round. They absolutely hate it, because, for example, they are cat people, and all of a sudden they end up on the dog side person. So they have to think of arguments to support the fact that dogs are better. But it makes them, disassociate from their real opinions and come up with such amazing arguments. And this also gives you a fantastic way of feedback after each round, because you ask them, okay, so what do you really think? And then you discover that your students were fighting bravely in favor of cats. I was like, no, I hate cats. I have a dog. I love dogs, etc., etc. So there is this tiny little twist. And when we play it, basically, at least once in a round, shall we say, they can choose which side they want to defend, and then the other person ends up with the other arguments. But there are many different ways of doing it, and a lot of language was generated even with my prepared 2 groups. They just they were going on. So this is what happens to everybody at one point when they are studying with me. The other thing, I guess it kind of was inspired by what Chris Rowland said at this training session that we went to with Vita. He said that he plans a lesson, and I like this concept. He said that he's got big groups of teenagers, and not to overlook any of his teenagers, because we always have quiet students. We always have those students who are not as active as everybody else. And he says that, for example, in a month, when he plans this lesson, he doesn't tell them that, but he prepares activities that this particular chosen student might like or would shine, because these are his or her strengths. So he basically has a list, and he goes through those students, and everybody has their lesson, even though they don't really know about this. And this is what I kind of decided to do, my own take on this. I don't know if you recognize the characters that are here. We have Harry, and we have Hobbit with the dragon. The dragon is probably my favorite topic. And we have also, oh my God, My Little Pony and Wings. I know a lot about Wings and about My Little Pony, but I don't know why it came about. I think we were just joking about something, and I said, okay, next lesson will be about Wings. Oh, yes, because boys were making fun of the girls, because girls, of course, I have 2 boys, 2 girls, so of course you can see that, yeah, Dasha and Lisa, Wings, and My Little Pony, and then boys like Harry Potter and Hobbit, which is also my team, but okay, fine. And the girls was, oh, fantastic. When the boys found out about My Little Pony, I had to, balance things up, and I said, okay, fine. So, okay, what's your favorite topic? Everybody gave me their favorite topic, and we basically had a series of 4 lessons, each of them devoted to each of those characters. in each lesson, I think I have a slide here. We were doing some bits, some revisions, some grammar from the book, but it was a nice coincidence that one of the topics in Prepare 2, there is I don't remember, it's about, I think it's the unit, maybe Vita remembers, it's the unit about talent shows, and there is this section, the input is based on describing people. So I kind of developed this into describing not only the physical appearance of people, but I threw in all the body parts for the mythical or magical creatures. And then we were describing basically different aspects of it. And in every lesson out of those 4 that we had, this was the linking element. So we were describing characters from Harry, from Hobbit, all the Wings and all the little ponies as well. But apart from that, we also, oh, come on, no, don't move so beautifully. We were also making a lot of riddles. These are some of the things that basically appeared in all of those activities. There was always a short video with a little bit of prediction and what happened and developing into a story. We had board games as well, one of which kind of similar to what you're going to see in a moment, and storytelling, and of course expressing opinion. Do you like Wings? Do you like My Little Pony, Hobbit, and Harry Potter? And of course they didn't even try to pretend that they liked the other camp's favorite thing. But I was sitting there, and like over the series of 4 lessons, at least 2 people were like, oh my God, enthusiastically involved in producing and telling me and us whether we wanted to know or not about their characters and what happens and blah, 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 blah. And in the end, because they kind of began to hate each other and make fun of each other, and the girls were like, oh my God, Harry Potter, and like, oh, Hobbit. And the boys, you don't want to know what boys think about Wings. So in the end, at the end of those 4 lessons, we had a story. They hated it. Yeah, they hated it, but they did it. I thought that it would be a nice idea to unite all the characters in one story. So this was their task. You have to, I don't know, it's your story. Tell us what happened in your story, in which, well, Wings and Fluttershy and yes, everybody participated, and we didn't do it as writing, this particular one, but they are a flyers preparation group as well. So no matter what we do, if it's kind of related to storytelling, then it's already good, and it goes towards the exam preparation practice. And they loved it, you know, at least one out of those 4 lessons, everybody loved one properly. So that was fun, and I'm definitely going to be doing it as well. So that was my second activity. The third activity is basically an approach, a way of approaching a board game. And this is because Miro has this wonderful thing of templates. You can, one of the templates that they offer is, oh, where is it? It's going to take its time. Come on, slow monkey. Okay, here it is, brain writing. It's basically a set of those Post-it notes put together, but you probably can do it with other things, but this is what I found really useful. So that's basically what it is. You get a set of those cards, and I decided to turn it into a very professional, as you can see, board game. So we are going start, and we move on. We move on like this. And this particular one, turned out to be at this. We played it in the beginning of the game, and it was. At the same time, a revision of everything that we have done so far. So these are all the questions from the previous 2 units, probably. Newspapers, family, presenter, TV, etc., etc. These are the topics at the end of Prepare 2. And these photographs are also kind of related to it. So basically they were moving. I have 4 students in this group, so they're playing in teams, and either they had to choose one of the photos to describe. There are some boxes in which they had to choose 2 photos to describe. So it was an interesting thing to see, because it's still a long way for them to go before they get to any FCE preparation, when they actually have to actively compare 2 photos, something that Sveta brought up. But it was interesting to see how they would react to this task. And okay, this is similar, this is different. They were looking for pictures that are either very similar or very different, and they could choose themselves. And the same with the questions. They could answer whichever question they wanted to be. You can see there are also those points. This is something, well, basically they were also collecting points. Boys are I don't remember who won. Girls won, right? But the next version of this game was without the points, and basically every box had a task, so either photo or newspaper. But I really like, and I did it with my teenagers as well, and I really like it because first of all they have a chance to choose what they want to discuss, so there is a little bit of freedom, but at the same time, as I said, we are revising everything that we've done, and we are at the same time preparing for the topic that is to be the topic of this lesson, because they were playing in pairs, so of course both people had to answer the question or they had to participate in describing the pictures. And this is something that I've been using for a while in my teenage group and in my juniors group as well. Okay, that's it. Right, questions. Disappearing patterns, I missed it. The listeners should support one of the speakers. Yes, so basically depending on how many people you have, in a small team, in a small group rather, when I have 4 students, there are 2 students participating always, and the other 2 are the judges. Sometimes in some setups, I am the judge as well, but this just gives me an opportunity to cheat, really, and to make sure that, well, the person who really who produces the best arguments wins, rather than the person that they like or dislike. So basically, for example, if I have a group in my prepare group, there is Tima, Dima, Dasha, and Lisa. So first, Dasha and Lisa are discussing one of the topics. Boys are listening and deciding themselves. So they are, it doesn't matter who they want to choose, and they tell only me. Then in the next round, Dasha still stays as a participant, but she's discussing another topic with Tima, whereas Lisa and Dima are listening. Then the third round, Lisa and Dima, etc., etc. So there are quite a few rounds, and there are always 2 people listening. If it's a bigger group, then basically groups are discussing and groups are listening. The only thing to decide at this point is to choose how many points they can be giving, so that it's more or less, if I don't know, in some groups you might have, if there is an odd number of students, you might have a group of, I don't know, 3, 3, 4, 4. So then basically the team decides how to divide those 3 points. So it's not a point per person, but a number of points per team. But it works. It works. Listeners should support. It doesn't matter whether they agree. That's the greatest thing. You are kind of developing people who can debate. I mean, maybe they will still choose, you know, I don't know, boys will choose boys or girls will choose girls, but they are learning to listen to better arguments, to more interesting arguments. So it's entirely up to them. Maybe for that reason, it's better that the teacher has some points as well to award, so that you can balance this potential, well, friendship or the lack of it. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Lovely. And the next one will be Kili. Okay, here we go. We probably should give Vita, can you make Kili the organizer, or shall I make it so that she can show her presentation?
She can show her
anyway.
presentation.
Okay,
anyway.
fantastic,
Yep.
Fantastic. Cool, super. Zalilova. Can you say something again? So, no, your microphone is now switched off.
No, it's on.
Okay, but it's the other. Okay, fine. Yes, we can.
You can hear me now. Yes?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so hello everyone. My theme is how to recycle and use your real and familiar classroom crafts, objects and things around the house to keep learning literacy as authentic and as comfortable as possible in the online classroom. So this idea came around as I started teaching one-to-one Superminds 1 student online, and I hadn't met her in the classroom before. And I was using my flashcards, like my hand-drawn flashcards, in quite a traditional way, like on the screen, raising them up and kind of fast, slow reveal, playing taboo and things like this. And I realized that this isn't something that is, it's not the best format in the long term. And I thought, how could I combine my sort of hand-drawn crafts from the classroom and bring the online, bringing the two together, because I wasn't willing to sacrifice my crafts and for pictures online, and I couldn't just use things the way I did in the classroom. So I decided to bring the two together and create an alphabet flashcard system for my Superminds 1 student online. Another concern I had with using online is that the students don't see real handwriting modeled, and they don't see real pages from books. I mean, there might be these YouTube versions where you can kind of mute them and read them with your students, but sometimes you can't see the real pages as if it was in real life. So this was also something that I wanted to try and work with. So before I show you what these online flashcards look like and what my PowerPoint looks like for this, for starting literacy with Superminds 1, with the alphabet, a list of reasons why I think it's important to use these, what I call authentic materials. So your bits of paper and craft and bits of rubbish and all sorts of things from around the house, is that it keeps, it brings familiar classroom comforts. It helps build rapport if you've never seen this student in real life before, or if your students are nervous now that they are online. It stops perhaps over-dependence on technology, because it's very easy to get caught up in trying to achieve and make things different and make things better than when we first started online, that sometimes we forget the bag of old crafts we have under our desk or things around the house, some of the simple things. And it can keep established classroom traditions going. It can help you create new ones. You can continue your kind of paper projects on the computer. And these are things that you can take back to the classroom afterwards. You could print out a book and of these online flashcards, and you can reuse them in the classroom again. So it's something that isn't kind of wasted. And it gives students an opportunity to bring their things to the PowerPoint, to bring, as we've seen with some of you, pets come to the camera, and for them to bring their own belongings. And using the second camera that I learned from Vita is that you can show the handwriting, and they can watch you do the handwriting with a hand, with a pen, with a paper or a board. And they can copy this so that they don't kind of fossilize mistakes because they didn't receive the corrections earlier enough, because we couldn't see how they did it. So I will show you the PowerPoint, I hope. Yes, okay. It's coming. Okay. Can you see? Yes. Okay. So this is the first slide. I will say something about the rabbit first. It's not completely random. So the rabbit is a rabbit of my friend's daughter, and this rabbit acts as a staging prop in my PowerPoints, as something familiar, something that can become familiar. Then this kind of thing, it's obvious. And then this one is my dog, and he features as an instruction giver and to ask questions, to model questions. Then, this is where the alphabet starts. So maybe I'll make it bigger. Okay, I think it will work. Yes, okay. So I decided I didn't glue any of this together. I just placed it there so I can collect it all back and use it as I have been, however I like. But I started to use the things that I already had in the house, and it has kind of like a childlike friendliness about it, and it's more it can be more meaningful to your class because I always use this Gruffalo toy, so it kind of pulls the theme over. So I'll just show a few of them, just different things. And then I put a heart there because I didn't want the kids to think that Gruffalo wanted to eat the animals. And then in this one, I used like the puppet. Gruffalo has a puppet. And yeah, G for Gruffalo. And here I used ice cream out my freezer because my student is called Irina. So I for ice cream, I for Irina. And this is tied with her favorite broccoli ice cream song. So I'm trying to build all the connections that I can around this. And then I'll just quickly flip through so you can see, but you probably have the idea. It's a chance to kind of use crafts that I have bagged away that I can't just use in every lesson as well. So it makes use of materials. And these letters, flashcard alphabet letters, are from my Gruffalo Tasty Letters game, where students have to make words and then feed it to the Gruffalo. So I'm kind of using these to kind of introduce some basic reading. And yeah, they keep going. And again, a chance to use an old craft from like last year that I kept, P for penguin. And then I decided to actually use the Gruffalo toy and then things from my house. So for example, this I put together today, these two, so they're not that good, but Gruffalo at the vet, and then Gruffalo having a cup of water. So I don't know, I think it's nice. And then the zoo, so then all the different kind of animals that live here together. And then what's next? Okay, then what's song again? And then, okay, now this one. So because my student likes this broccoli ice cream song, I took a picture. I mean, it can be quite time consuming because I took a picture individually of every single one of these letters, emailed them to myself, cropped them, pasted them on. However, it's effective, it looks nice, and the student kind of, there's kind of a recurring visual, they're recurring visuals. So this she wasn't quite ready for because this was lesson 8 of Superminds, or lesson 9. And at the moment she can only associate B for banana, and B for broccoli just doesn't work at the moment. So we're just kind of playing around with these first letters of these things, of these different foods, to kind of give her some extra vocabulary and actually make these associations from this vocabulary to this first letter. So this slide we will probably keep for quite a while because it is going to take time. And then this slide, I just photographed some dog on the tarmac when I went for a walk. And this is kind of our, again, it's just, you know, it's just kid friendly. And you don't have to do this particular slide, but we could, but this is, you can write on the tarmac. If I share my screen, she can write letters. And then in this one, this is when I use the second camera. So for handwriting, so Gruffalo is my pet, and her toy, and she has one which is a lizard. So to kind of get familiar with the letters, she saw these originally as a whole word. And then step 2 was I rewrote these words, and she watched how I wrote, and she copied one letter at a time, then showed me. And then the third stage was to knock some letters out. So I hang on. I forgot the word in English. Wait, I knocked the I out because I for Irina. I knocked A because it's the first letter. And then I knocked the F's because they're kind of obvious in Gruffalo. There's lots of f sound. And then the O because she thinks it's very funny, O for orange. So I kind of chose these letters for reasons, not just randomly. And then I kind of, to help her, I go, do you like, and she goes, ice cream. And then she knows that it's I after L. So it's just little like building associations. And she has red hair, so I just, draw a happy face with red hair. And then in this part, so there would be, again, it's about building these associations again. So I used an old craft that was not with this student, but at one of my kindergartens. And I bring these alphabet flashcards in, and I just put them there. And then L for Ladybird is in our online flashcard, L for Ladybird with Gruffalo. So she knows the word bird already. So there's a blue bird, a ladybird. So she could remember that ladybird because of bird. And then it's B for bee, and then B for bird, and it's just building association. She's not ready for I Spy, but this is something hopefully that we will come to shortly. And then again, what song? Just anything at the end, something we won't work with. I have a pet maybe to just revise this, to have some fun, not really related to literacy. And then this does not work yet, but my aim is to have a read a word with Gruffalo at the end of every lesson. So this is a bit pushing it a little bit, but I will find kind of simpler words, perhaps like lizard or her name or ice cream or something that she loves a lot. And with these alphabet flashcards. And then the rabbit comes back, story time. The rabbit could appear a bit more actually, because I said it was staging and then it wasn't there for a long time. And then like our rewards chart, that's just kind of a silly little monster that looks a bit like Gruffalo again. He's a great Gruffalo today. And then the last page is what is my homework, and I recycle one of my photos of my Gruffalo in my kindergarten when he had a birthday party, and with the 2 to 3 year old class. And again, it's just something that comes back, and we could learn party hat and different vocabulary that we can get from these photos. And then finally, I said about using pre-existing projects. So I have a literacy project based on a storybook with my Superminds 2, and it's The Chocolate Monster, and I have a hand-drawn puppet. This is the book we use, and it's very hard to do this online because I don't want to use too many pictures from the internet, and I don't want to type out the text particularly. But this is how it looks, how I started to display it. So let's read together. The dog Jack gives instructions, and it's on the screen, and it's the familiar book that they remember from when we did it in class. And they get excited to see the puppet and the book, how it looks physically, and this is nice. And I'm not sure what's next. Nothing. Okay. So I'll stop sharing. So how to do these things? I mean, if you're not really into drawing puppets and all of these kind of knick-knack pastely painting things. There are photographs, so maybe you've taken photographs of your previous crafts that you've done with your kids. Maybe you've taken photographs of your boards at some point and you still have the same class, and you could show a picture of your board, share the screen. I did this with my Prepare 3 group. So we were learning how to form a sentence with 2 verbs in a sentence. And I had a color-coded system on the board. I took a photo of it back in the classroom, and I shared the screen, and they had it back there again, exactly how it looked. Or when we played our taboo game, no, not taboo game. It was a game where they had flashcards, not flashcards. How are they called? Sticky notes, post-it notes on their head. And each person had a verb. So every person in that Prepare 3 class wrote their verb from the board without telling anybody on their post-it note. They put it on somebody's head with their permission. That person could not look. And then we had to build a sentence with 2 verbs, not showing the person who you looked at. So when you chose their verb, you don't let them make it obvious that you chose their verb. And I collect the words on the board, the verbs, and then we have to guess which verb we were. And one of the teenagers brought a toy. It was a chicken, and the chicken had the verb eat on it. And I took a photo of this in the class, and luckily I took the photo because I reused it when we played this game online. And this was just a nice, very simple way to build rapport. So photos. And then a photo of your pet or a relative's pet or a toy in your house or your class toy or puppet. Having these 2 things, having a function in your lesson, in your PowerPoint, can be a way of bringing something from the old room back into this new version of the room. And it's something you can take back again afterwards to the classroom. Again, it's just a nice way to keep things kind of familiar. And your picture of the pet or the toy could go onto the board with a speech bubble, and it could be for functional language. It could have verb forms, like a more meaningful way to show these posters in the classroom. And then now the teachers, if you have a classroom toy, the student can bring their toy online, or also you could obviously do this in the real classroom. And for controlled practice or scaffolded freer practice, they could have conversations with each other, these toys. They can sing songs together, they can spell together, because the student might feel more uncertain online or afraid to speak or make mistakes. With my Superminds 1 student, I thought that because she's 7, that the blank look she was giving me through the screen was because the screen was affecting the connection between us. However, I understood that this is not the case. She's taking everything in, because when she doesn't answer questions and she doesn't answer me, I ask her lizard and he answers me immediately. And I understood that it's not what I thought it was. So this is useful. And they can also be used to make mock starters, movers and flyers speaking tests between the toys. And it would remove these barriers and make the testing kind of disguised fun. And this is something you can do online or in the classroom, that toys can sit together and in pairs, and they can, do their testing. And to develop my last point, how am I for time, Anka? How am I for time?
We're kind of behind anyway already, so.
Okay, 2 minutes to round up then. I'll be very quick.
Okay.
Thank you. So my last point, to develop these ideas, to develop these ideas further. For example, with these online flashcards, they can, I realized that I didn't always pick the most interesting things to stand for those letters. So a good thing that could be done is that you could go around your house, you could find different objects, things that look interesting, put them on a blanket, and then you could For example, if it's a paper rose, R for rose, not just R for rabbit. So you can do this with your second camera in the lesson, and the student can have a blanket in front of them with their toys and their things. And this could be like a follow-up to this lesson or at the same time. And you can use these physical things from the flashcards or, you know, into other parts of the lessons because they're not glued to the table. And that's it, really.
Mm-hmm. Kiri, have a look. There is a question from Irina, but I think you kind of have answered. But have a look in the chat.
Are you doing this live, or do you prepare photos in advance for students? Put photos in your presentation. Okay, so I do this in advance. I usually don't seriously plan this in advance because I tend to only get these ideas in response to how my lesson goes. So if I feel that the student, I'm not getting the reaction I want from the student, I think, okay, what do I need to do next? And then I might have these ideas in the lesson, and then I make these things for the next lesson. It doesn't take much time, actually. I just put the puppet, the Gruffalo drawing on the table. I put the apple flashcard on the table, and I put the letter A flashcard on the table. I take a photo of it, and I put it into my PowerPoint. And then they're not all glued together, so you can reuse all this stuff in different ways. Mm-hmm.
Super.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kiri. Thank you very much. And here comes John. John, are you here? Yes, he is. He's here. Super.
I'm here, yep.
Fantastic. Let's go, John.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so today I'm just going to cover a few games that I've made in the last few weeks. Some of them you might have seen before, but some of them could be new. So this is one which you've probably not seen so far because I made it last week.
Probably.
Well, you've seen the game before, I'm sure. So I made a battleship game, basically. You can use this as a feedback game, like I have here, or you could make it into a pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar. So the rules are basically, you put these ships in the right places. For example, an aircraft carrier has to be 5 A's. You fill out your pieces on the board, and then you have your enemy board. So to do this, you have to make 2 duplicates. So this is for player 2. You need to make a copy for player 1, and then you put people in their breakout rooms, and you give each one of them, ask them to fill it out, bring them together, and when they answer a question, they can decide to choose a spot. And then the other team has to say either hit, miss, or sink. And of course, you can teach them some functional language like, oh no, you've hit my battleship, or ha ha ha, you've missed, or ah, it sunk. So you can use all sorts of different language with this. It takes quite a while, so better to give them time limits. Like you have 2 minutes to put your pieces on the board. You have 20 seconds to choose the spot you want to hit. And if you keep the pace going, it can be a nice way of getting through control practice or whatever language point you want to do it. By the way, if you have any questions, just put it in the chat, because I'm going to go quite a few games. So the next one, it's less of a game and more of an activity. It's Word Diamond. First, I have this little template here, and I asked them to say any random word. Okay, for example, cat. And then they have to make an association with cat. So let's say fur or tail. But they have to justify why they associate it. Oh, some questions. Let's see. Oh, sorry, about battleships. What do students practice vocabulary? Basically, you can practice vocabulary. For example, if it's fruit, you could change the numbers to apple, orange, etc. And they have to make a small sentence using that fruit. You can practice grammar even, like past simple, present simple. So you can just, instead of doing the numbers and letters, you can put words in and give them rules. Okay, back to the word diamond. So they have to justify why they say this. For example, you say, okay, why tail and cat? Okay, a cat has a tail, a cat has fur. Then something else with fur, for example, itchy and tail can be animal. But this word number 5 in the middle has to be something that associates with both fur and both tail. Of course, somebody might say animal, but we've already had animal, so they have to think of something else. So an example could be, well, dog. It has fur and it has a tail. And then with these final words, it has to associate with, for example, itchy and dog and animal, and then the final 2 here. So that's one activity in itself, but usually I do this as a warmer to some kind of revision. For example, if we're practicing past simple, I would put people into different teams and they would have to make gap sentences using the words in here, and the other team would have to guess what their gap sentences are. So it's a nice little warmer, communicative warmer before doing some kind of language practice. Okay, any questions in the chat about this game? Okay, well, I'll move on to the next one. If you have any questions, I'll answer them later. This one's classic, guns, bombs, and hearts. Very easy to make. You just make a table, and you have, well, how do you link the grid and the vocab? Well, this is more of a grammar game. Well, this warmer is a vocab game, but the follow-on task is usually a grammar game using the vocab that's in here. For example, I want to do present continuous. So a team will have a separate document and they'll write examples like, I have a beautiful that meows. And then the other team has to guess what that gap is going to be using the words in the grid. So this is just, you can practice I have for lower levels, I like, or it can go even to higher levels, like using the past perfect or conditionals. So this is just like a leading task, which is revision of words or testing their vocabulary. You can adapt it quite easily though. Okay. So guns, bombs, and hearts, you can use it for controlled practice by having A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can also use it for grammar. This was prepare to, past continuous. So they had to make a sentence at 8 p.m. I don't know why it says o'clock. 8 p.m. last night. So got subject here and base verbs here. So one person would say like, oh, we were swimming at 8 p.m. last night. So you take away this thing here and it's a bomb, -1 point. We have another bomb here, a gun. So with a gun, you get to shoot someone from the other team and take 1 life from them. And there should be a heart here where they get +1 life. Again, very simple game, a very quick way of doing freer practice, I guess, not totally free. Other than that, you can teach them functional language, like, yay, I got a heart, or oh no, it's a bomb. And when it comes to the gun, there's lots of things like, ha ha ha, I want to shoot this guy. I will get revenge against you. So you can practice the same functional language every lesson, and they get into it. Snakes and ladders, I'm sure you've seen this as well. I go to the generator, which is snakes and ladders generator. Then I go to the second link here. And then there is a link here. I'll have to change my screen in a second. So you click on this, and then you load the Excel. And I'll show you the Excel. So here you've got a basic document, looks quite intimidating, but actually if you go to Worksheet, you have the board here. And all you need to do is fill in whatever questions you want. What is your favorite animal, for example? And if you go back to the worksheet, you'll see that question 2 has been like this. You can do it for vocabulary, you can do it for grammar, you can do it for basically freer discussion. Just after that, you need to zoom out, then do a print screen. Let's see, print screen. Then basically you put it into a Paint document. You copy the part that you want, just the board, and then you can paste it to the presentation, which we'll go back to. So paste it to the presentation, and the only thing, you can change the slide size by going to File, and then down to the bottom, File to Page Setup, and you can customize the size of your slide if you want to make it more convenient for your game. If it's too small, you can click Present, and it enlarges it for you. Here I have player 1, player 2, player 3, but you can easily make counters. For example, clip part cat. Take a cat, copy the image, put it on top of the board, if it loads, let's see, here it is, make it a bit smaller, and here you have counters which you can move. So that's a way of doing that as well. So any questions about this one? Oh, here's something in the chat. Website, okay. Let's go back. This is the website. Again, I put Snakes and Ladders Generator in Google, and it's a second link. You can roll the dice, yes. So, dice generator. For example, dice roller, roll the dice. Here's 2 dice, but you can change that to 1 by pressing go back, and 1. There's a million of these, but here you are. Here's a link in the chat. Okay, what else have I got here? Word Square. It's a nice little warmer recycling activity. You have to make 4 horizontal words. It's a race. So if you make several documents for several teams, put them in their breakout rooms. For example, flag, thing, for example. And if you want to make it easier, you can make it 3 by 3. If you want it for higher level classes, 5 by 5. Very simple game. Something else, it's kind of a mix of the Russian TV show Balda and Boggle, which is a British game. Usually I put people, for example, into 3 teams. The rules are quite complicated, to be honest. It's one of those games where you have to play to get used to it. You can make, so these letters are already here. and your team has to make new words by only adding one letter. This is the important part. You can only add one letter. The word can be horizontal, vertical, diagonal, and it can be a combination of vertical, diagonal, as long as all the letters are connected to each other. For example, let's say blue, which you give them a team name. They wanted it to be called Water Warriors. So blue has to add one letter to make a word. So we got TNL. There's nothing really there, but something simple, for example, rat. They would change their color to blue. So rat is 3 points. So 3. So you put rat, 3 points. Then it will be red team. So let's say fire team. They can make a word, including this new letter. They can make a new word. For example, they could be a bit cheeky and say, okay, red, let's have, so that's 4 points. I just randomized the letters. Before I share it with the teams, I just randomly fill it in. So, oh, my dad's calling me. He'll have to call back in 10 minutes. Red, 4 points. 1 second. Okay, so red, 4 points. And the green team, let's call them bogey team. Be creative. So they could even go even more creative and go racer. So they got do. And that will be 6 points. But you can use any direction. You can go like O, E, S, C, P, O. For example, like pour, P-O-U-R. So to do this, you basically explain the rules, ask lots and lots of CCQs, but they'll still mess up despite that. It's one of those games you just have to learn. Then you put them into free breakout rooms and share the one document. And the very important thing is to make sure that they take turns. So blue will go after green, red after blue, and green after red. And you as a teacher, my advice would be to join their breakout room when it's their turn, and then move to the next breakout room and tell them it's their turn while giving them advice. And I'll have one more. Basically, this isn't a game I made, just a reminder that you can very quickly make a good game from materials that already exist. So I copied this exercise from a website, from actually teachthis.com. It was very good for my FCE class. It was a revision of passives of all different levels. Their task was to correctly fill in the passive, but also race to identify 3 of each thing, which they did to different extents. Okay, so that's all the games I have prepared for today. Do you have any questions for me? It's Teach This. Let me quickly find it for you. Teach This. So here you can search for many things, for example, past simple. Some of the things are exclusive, we have to pay for. Some of them are free for everybody. Well, most of them you have to pay for, but you can find, for example, What's Word board game. So it's one of many different websites we can find material from, and just copying it to a Google Doc and doing any adaptations to it as necessary. Okay. So does anybody have any more questions?
Okay, cool.
Okay, I think that's it.
Cool, John, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then yes, yeah, lots of thank yous in the chat room. No questions. Okay. Okay. Yes, even more thank yous. Your way. Okay. Very good. The last one is the other of my presentations, in which I would like to share with you some of the ideas for a song, basically. And let me share. Where is this one? There is this one. Okay. So first of all, I'll just share the song just for a tiny little while. This is an example. This is just well, one of the many things that can be done with a song. And of course, if you go to Super Simple Song website, then you will find some worksheets and some ideas. But what I'm going to present is basically a possible template of what can be done with a song. So if you don't know this amazing piece, then here it is. Let's listen to a little bit. Okay. No commercials, please. Okay.
Little bird, can you clap?
No, I can't. No, I can't. I can't clap.
Little bird, can you fly?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I can fly. Elephant, can you fly?
No, I can't. No, I can't. I can't fly.
Elephant, can you stomp?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I can stomp.
Okay, right. You get the idea, right? Everybody can do something, and everybody, there is something that everybody cannot do either. So that's the idea. There are a few animals. And I'm going to show you basically everything that I've done with this song throughout, this is a really bad English day. Sorry about this. Throughout a series of lessons with my, this was with pre-primary, but the same song is going to work very well with our Superminds 1 kids, or 2 if they still want to sing. And the cow is here because this is everything about milking the song as much as possible, and making sure that the structure and the vocabulary stays. And this is not I don't want to say that this song is the topic of our lessons for a series of 6 or 7 lessons. No, you introduce it at one point, of course, and then there are different things, little bits and pieces that can be done in every lesson. So this time when I was introducing the song with my Playway 1 group, they already had the structure I can see. So it was easy to supplement see with other verbs. And they also had quite a few verbs apart from one in this whole set, because we were doing other games from the very beginning of the course. So they knew swim and clap and what else is there? Dance and sing. So the only one really that I needed to properly introduce was climb for the gorilla that features later on in the song. But what I wanted to do was to focus more on the vocabulary on animals, because they didn't really distract the course that we were doing. Dex 1 is structured slightly differently to Playway. So basically it's going to start with I can see the familiar structure and playing a game with animals, and those animals that feature here can be, of course, different. And I just threw them on when I was preparing for this. I threw them on here, they were piled up, and I figured out, oh my God, but they cannot see the animals. How am I going to do it? I need to organize them. And then I thought, actually, I don't, because this in itself, it's already an activity. So I just piled up even more animals, even more pictures here, and threw those shapes, so that it's a little bit of a challenge, even you know, the cat. So of course you can start guessing, and then what you can see, kids call out the animals. You can practice, of course, and there are different animals. There are quite a few of them here, but this is the handout or the board that I'm going to be, the frame rather, that I'm going to be using later on. So this is the first step. The second step would be focusing on the vocabulary. So these are all the verbs and all the animals that feature in the song. And then, of course, when you are presenting, then it's a good idea to start putting them together into pairs. Clap, yes, and boys and girls, you can see that the elephant can stomp and fish can swim, buffalo can run, and gorilla can climb. And then boys and girls can sing and dance. So I managed to find a picture that actually shows both at the same time, which is very, very lucky. Again, there are different ways of introducing a song, because when I started teaching, I was, you know, like going by the book, first vocabulary and structures, and when we are ready, we will start singing that. But it's not necessarily the best idea. And being a lazy teacher, on some days, I realized that there are other ways as well. So, for example, some of the songs, we start with the song itself, like broccoli ice cream is great because it's got everything in it as it is. So you can actually use broccoli ice cream to present the structure rather than the other way around. The one that is also super simple songs that I really like, What Do You Like to Do? It's a lovely song. It has got, I don't know, maybe 20 different verbs. But when I wanted to introduce it, I realized that I would spend too much time of the lesson on introducing those verbs to sing the song. So basically, in the beginning, we just watched the video because there is kind of a story in this video as well. And then kids were basically learning, the more we sang the song, the more verbs they picked up from the context. So this is the solution for a lazy teacher, sometimes at least to use. And then after this presentation here, I would use the song, the video of which you would see. And of course, a song is never for one lesson. You sing it over and over again, because the more familiar they become, the more comfortable they become, and the more of actual pleasure and doing with a song what we normally would do with a song in real life, right? You play the music because you like it, not because you want to remember some nice language from it. So that's when it comes closer to what the song is actually about, the more you use it, and it's never just for one lesson. But another thing that I would really like to get from a song, because I'm a teacher, is also the structure and make it stick. So for example, with this one, with Little Bird, Little Bird, while we were still in the classroom, we played Pelmanism. And but last week when I was teaching the song again, I played the same game with students online. So of course here, what do we have? Okay, number one, let's see. Little bird, little bird, is it the bird? Yes, little bird, can you fly? Ah, yes, good. Yes, I can, I can fly. Gorilla, can you swim? No, I can't, I can swim. So the Spellmanism game gives us an opportunity to, first of all, practice little bits and pieces of the song in different configurations, but also play the game. We played this forever, really. And then later we used the same pattern. We used the cards with verbs. We use them to ask other flashcards whether they can do things. And at Hugo we have also a lot of plastic animals, so every lesson I would bring a pile of plastic animals, and we would also ask those plastic animals whether they could do things that were depicted on these verbs. And then of course later those verbs can be replaced by other verbs, and you can also ask the parents. Now, especially online, you can ask different toys that kids have. I have my hen here, and Teddy and cow, so these are at least these people. When I'm playing this game with Saida, I'm asking her toy lion, whether he can do things, and some of them he can, some of them he can't. So this was a nice way of revising and playing over and over again. And we played it for quite a few lessons. But that's not everything, of course, because there are different handouts that I prepared for this particular song. Okay, there are 3. So of course, if the parents, now speaking of the online world, if the parents can print, then you can just use them. Oh, come on. You can use them as extra homework, and this is how we used those when we were still in the classroom, but they can also be used in class. So of course here you have the handout that reflects the lyrics of the song, and then you can choose the correct, you can choose the little bird can fly, and elephant can stomp, and fish can swim, etc., etc. But then there is a lot more potential, because you can exchange the animals, so you can introduce the other animals that kids know. And also, oh, this is something that I forgot to show you. At the end, there is also I. So we are switching the focus from the animals to us, and we can circle all the things that we can do. Some of my kids can fly. This is how I found out. But that's great. And then of course different animals and a different person here mom features. And then especially fun for Miro or for PowerPoint presentation, kids can give their own animals, or I don't know, monsters or creatures or characters or whatever they want to suggest. And then of course we go through this again, and we can circle or we can cross out if they cannot really do things, or we can circle if they can do. And then last but not least, the final step of it, when they would feel a little bit more comfortable with the whole structure, is one of my favorite games, the dice game. It can be also played online. So we have the dice and we have the same images here, almost the same images, at least from the handouts. So basically we roll the dice and we ask each other, so the teacher or one of the students, whoever is leading the game, boys and girls, can you clap? And of course we will be showing all those activities. So this is a nice TPR activity or movement activity. And again, these are some of the verbs. They can be easily replaced with other verbs or exchanged later if you teach your kids some other verbs. So basically from this one little song, you can build it into a whole set of activities that can be added to every lesson, kind of reinforcing the structure. Now, for example, with Saida, we are doing farm animals. So everything that we have learned with this song in whenever December or whenever that was, now we are asking the cow and the pig and whoever. Well, we have a lion on our farm, but that's kind of beside the point. So we ask everybody what they can do things, and it kind of it basically because of the song. Okay, so that's really it. It's from me. Other questions? Okay, yes. Okay, broccoli ice cream. Broccoli ice cream is also a super simple song, and I used it again with my pre-primary and with primary with Super Minds 1 when they do the food. This is something that we have learned. So basically, and there are other versions as well, Lydia. There are 4, I think, now of different food combinations. Super simple song. We'll be using the song as some activities, Super Minds. Okay, lovely. Yes, I will share the handouts, of course. Okay. Yes, okay, that's it. Lovely. So that's it for me. If there are no more questions. Okay, Irina. Cool. Very good. Now, these are all the presentations that we have had for today. Now we have our questions and answer session. Really bad English day. Oh my God. Do you have any questions about anything? No. Okay. Okay, sure, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, lovely. Optional part of our session. Thank you very much, everybody. We are going to be sharing the recording whenever it's ready. So please bear with us. It's going to be. Maybe we can have a break in the middle of the workshops. Yes, Irina. Yes, that's a good idea. Yes, we will think about it. We will think about it for the next time. Thank you very much for being here and spending your Sunday afternoon with us. Thank you for your support. I hope you have a nice teaching week. And the link. Yes, Vita. Miro. I think it's somewhere earlier. I think it was somewhere earlier. I'm looking for it.
I think Lydia wants your mirror board.
My mirror board. My mirror board
Yes,
is not.
this
Okay, Lydia. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not
I mean,
public. But I can add it. We were speaking before the session that we can add all the games that we have to add it to Vita's board that she's sharing. So it will be. It will be.
Thank
It
you.
will be done. Yes. Thank you, Lydia. Okay. Super. Lovely. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a lovely evening, and see you next time.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank
nice
you, Alex.
Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everyone.
Goodbye.
Yes. Thank you,
Goodbye.
Florence.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Mhm.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.